Hi, I'm Kara Manning with FUV Live. For Agnes Obel's third album, Citizen of Glass, the Berlin-based Danish musician found inspiration in a branch of German social science and law, exploring issues of privacy and personal history. Although the concept might sound philosophical and weighty, Agnes's music is airy, ethereal, and richly arranged. She often multi-tracks or shifts the pitch of her own voice. And for this album, she expanded far beyond the piano and reached for some unusual vintage instruments like a celesta, a harpsichord, and a trautonium, a type of early electronic synth. Citizen of Glass is a wintry album, and Agnes Obel's songs are as beautiful as candlelight, offering warmth and contemplation during a cold and dark time of year. In our FUV Live conversation, Agnes discussed her motivation to make Citizen of Glass and her responsibility as an artist and a citizen of the world. Agnes, how are you today?
I'm great, thank you.
We should first say that your name is spelled Agnes, but Agnes is how it is correctly pronounced in your native Denmark.
That's correct.
I am so excited that you have a new album out, Citizen of Glass, because I was just so absolutely captivated by this very personal, very cinematic, very ruminative way that you approach music. It's almost meditative.
Oh, thank you.
And that's what's so glorious about Citizen of Glass. And I was wondering, because there are differences in each of your three albums, they both feel like three different novels in a way. Mm-hmm. When you were concluding the touring with Behind Aventine, did you have a specific idea in mind of what you wanted Citizen of Glass to be?
Yeah, because we toured Aventine for, I think, almost 1.5 years. So already in 2014, while touring Aventine, there was all these discussions about surveillance and big data and Edward Snowden. And there was a lot about that in Germany, because they have a lot of organizations that are involved with protecting the individual's privacy because of German history, where people were very much under surveillance.
There's a German term, which I'm going to mispronounce, but it's Gläserner Bürger?
Yeah, gläserne Mensch and gläserne Bürger.
Okay.
Or gläserne Patient. So it can be glass human, glass citizen, or glass patient, depending on who knows what, And it sort of depicts the level of privacy the individual has. And when they have no privacy, if the medical world knows everything about the individual, it's a glass patient. And the same with if the state knows everything, then it's a glass citizen. And it's sort of a social, scientific term, I guess, and also a legal term in Germany. But I just thought it was really poetic, and I really immediately felt like I could use it for songwriting. And I don't know, there's something about this glass human that really appealed to me, like being transparent and also being sort of fragile like glass. It can break into pieces.
Or immensely powerful. I mean, the bridges of glass now that are kind of circling these incredible mountains in China that people are walking across.
Oh, yeah. What a nice image. Yeah, definitely. I felt like there was a lot of things to investigate, like how it is to be made of glass as an individual, how I experience to watch myself and when other people are watching me, and also to sort of push myself to be made of glass. I feel like songwriting, for me at least, is a lot about using myself and sharing and opening up in sort of a scary way almost,
You kind of catapulted into this huge sphere of being recognized. I mean, you won 5 Danish music awards, including Best Album of the Year. I mean, your album went multi-platinum. So suddenly you were happily making music on your own. And then everything kind of shifted around 2008, 2009, 2010. And I have a feeling, because I sense that you are a shy person, perhaps, that kind of coming to terms with that, of enjoying making music for yourself and then having to be out there in front of an audience, became something that was perplexing, maybe?
Yeah. Well, I think it was definitely good for me to try that. It's interesting because I've been making music for many years, but the whole thing of writing songs on piano and these sort of melodies I have been developing on piano was not something I really used in my band projects or really played for anybody. So it was like a bit of a shock. So I need to release it and just play it everywhere and just talk about it. And I felt like it was definitely a part of me that used to be my little private thing I did on my own that I now was suddenly living from, and I would be lying if I said that didn't change something in me. And you can never get that back. You can never make your first album again. That's just not possible. And it also sort of made me think about when is it good to keep something secret and when is it good not to, and the potential of pushing yourself to do these things, to reveal your secrets and your private things. That can be really good for you, but sometimes it can be good not to do it. And these lines of when it's too private or too personal, and when it's not, and when it's good for your art or whatever you call it, is not really clear to me. And I felt like I would like to write about it, actually, and this is what I tried to do.
With Citizen of Glass.
With Citizen of Glass. Yeah.
Let's hear a song from this. I was very excited to know that you were going to be doing this today, because this is actually the first time you've done this song just by yourself, because you've been rehearsing with your band. The song Stone. It's beautiful. This is Agnes Obel and Stone on WFUV.
They say every sin will have 1,000 eyes. Two guilty fools were guilty minds. But I must be cruel to become deep within my head of stone, a stone, of stone. Oh, how the birds forget to sing. Oh, do they know I have been, and I will leave you there again, deep within my head of stone, a stone, a stone. You are my only one. You are my only one. Like the earth to the sun. You are my only one. Over the trees that grow, the plants that spring. Over they know a love sin. Ain't made a paper or a string. It's cast into a head of stone, of stone, of stone.
And that is an absolutely beautiful song found on Agnes Obel's brand new album, Citizen of Glass, that is called Stone. I'm Karen Mango on WFUV. We were having a long discussion earlier about the differences between Danish and Swedish and Norwegian. And when you moved to Germany, you had to learn German as well, because you're based out of Berlin, which is like an artist's haven right now, with your partner.
Yeah.
Who's a filmmaker, visual artist, correct?
Yeah. He sort of does everything. He's very much into photography at the moment, but he's also doing animation and films, short films and stuff like that.
Didn't he do a couple of the videos for this new album as well?
Yeah. He's done one, and he's gonna do one more. So yeah.
That's very exciting. But the thing that I love about this album, Citizen of Glass, is that it demands attention. It sort of takes you into a visual sphere as well. And I'm wondering how much painting or art or architecture plays a role in how you compose, because it does feel as if there's a visual component to your music.
I think I just like music that has sort of a visual element or produces images in your mind when you listen to it. So I guess it's sort of in my unconscious, ambition of mine to make music that sort of takes you somewhere.
Well, because you were a literature major at University of Copenhagen, right? So obviously lyrics and words play a huge role in what you do, as does the language of the instruments that you've chosen to use for this album in particular. I'm really fascinated by the fact that you managed to buy and find a Trantonium?
Yeah, Trautonium.
Trantonium that was invented. It was kind of like a primitive synth that was invented around 1929.
Yeah.
And the thing that I thought was so cool is it was used in Hitchcock's The Birds. It made the sound of the birds. And how did you find this and buy it? And how do you learn to play something like this?
It was a friend of mine, Daniel. He showed me the Trautonium because he knew I loved Hitchcock and the soundtracks for his films, and he knew I loved the birds in particular.
Where there was no music, it was only sound.
There was just really
the birds,
amazing sounds of birds, and it's been played. These bird sounds are being played on a Trautonium, and it's a guy called Oskar Sala who did that, a German guy, a composer and a sort of Trautonium expert who did that for Hitchcock. And then Daniel showed me the instrument and different kind of recordings, and I just really liked it immediately because it sounded sort of old and modern at the same time, and beautiful and almost unpleasant also. It could sound sort of metallic, but even also like an acoustic instrument. So I liked it had all these sort of opposite forces in it.
I'm imagining that you're going to reproduce this sound and use it on a computer. You're not going to bring this thing on tour with you. So
no.
For one thing, it's like a museum piece. And
yeah.
And you also own a Celeste, or is it a Celesta or a Celeste? What is the correct way of?
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, I'm also just saying everything because I'm not really sure. Yeah. It's like, I think, some people say Celeste and some people say Celesta and some say Celeste. So I'm not really sure.
And it's famously used in Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker.
Exactly.
Glass sounding.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating that all of in this album, it's all these unusual instruments that you use to reproduce the sound of glass or even fragility as a motif.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wanted to see if I could get the theme into the sounds and into the arrangements. Yeah, and also sort of communicate the state of mind of the song in the music and not just the lyrics. And so I knew I had to, experiment and try new instruments. And because the piano is great, but it's really, in a way, sometimes too beautiful. And I wanted something a little bit more percussive and glass-like, like you say, and maybe also sort of a little bit more having something
sharp.
Yeah.
The use of the piano, your entire family is made up primarily of piano players, except for your brother who plays the drums, I think.
Oh, yeah.
He's like the one outlier, basically. Yeah. But I love the story that your great-grandmother used to play piano for silent film.
Yeah, that's correct.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So you had no choice as a child, or you definitely sort of latched onto the piano quite easily because your house was surrounded by that music.
Yeah, I started playing really early, so I don't really remember any sort of choice or decision about going to or taking piano lessons. I just started. But on the other hand, it was never in my family something you had to. Like my mom played and still plays piano, but she never did it professionally. And for my dad, he played guitar professionally for a couple of years, and then he stopped. And then it just became like this insane hobby for him to collect instruments. That was the thing. We had 2 grand pianos, and
Wow.
vibraphone and marimba and double bass and so many guitars and stuff. Yeah. So I think it was because he wasn't a professional anymore, and then he was sort of living it out through the instruments. So it became sort of...
Could he play every single one that he collected?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe not on a really high level, but he could definitely play every instrument. He certainly tried. But yeah, piano too. Like I really loved his playing.
Did you learn to play everything that was in the house?
No, I didn't. I wish I did. Like I can play a bit of guitar and bass and stuff like that, but I'm not really good. I missed out on that.
But you have managed to learn how to play a Trontonium, so
yeah,
not many people can brag about that. I also love the fact that you played a lot with your vocals on this album. Is that you almost duet with yourself on Familiar, and a couple of the other tracks on the record. Is that you slow down one vocal track, which is you, and then you sort of sing with yourself with that slowed down vocal track.
Yeah, it's like I used a pitch shifter.
Right.
And then I shifted all the vocals a fifth down. So it's really far down from the normal key. And then this sort of really male voice appeared, which I loved. And I could still hear it was me, but it was like this other person speaking through me in a way. And on Citizen of Glass, the song Citizen of Glass, I pitched it up one note. So it became more glass-like, and maybe some people would say a little bit Mickey Mousey, but
I didn't think so. No. I will say that when I first heard Familiar, before I realized what you were doing, I was like, who is she singing with? And I started Googling around going, who's duetting with Elvis? So, Mary, which is one of my favorite songs on the album. I was so excited that you're going to do that today. There's a wistful tenderness about this song, but lyrically not necessarily so. I'm wondering if you could,
Explain
is the impetus for it.
Well, I wanted to write the song for many years, and I just didn't really find the right way to do it. Because it's a song about a secret that sort of becomes a nightmare and a sort of this dark cloud hanging over you. And it's a story a friend of mine told me of a sexual experience in a young age that wasn't good. And she was so ashamed she wouldn't tell anybody. And then she told me the worst thing was actually the secret. Because when she then, many years later, started telling people, she felt much better. And she realized it was a secret that sort of became the heavy burden in her life and followed her around. And I really always wanted to write that song. And from her perspective about how a secret can become this sort of distorted fairy tale nightmare in your life, in your head, you carry with you. And also...
It's about shame.
Shame, yeah. And also about like having this feeling of something above. It doesn't have to be religious watching you. And then so somebody else knows as well. And then sort of ending the song with the secret being sort of released and you being released as well. And then I thought it was good to sort of end the album with that song because, I feel like maybe it sounded like I'm sort of very critical towards all this transparency and self-documentation we have in our society. But I also think there's a great potential in this sharing and self-documentation of ourselves. And I felt like it was perfect to end with Mary in a way that it shows that it can be really great to tell your secrets,
Has your friend heard this song?
No, she knows I've written a song, but she hasn't heard the new album. I should actually send it to her.
Are you nervous about her?
Yes.
You are nervous, yeah. I saw that.
A little bit, yeah. But she knows, and she's known for a while I would write a song about this.
And it's composed from love, obviously.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And you can certainly hear that in this song. I'm so glad you're doing it today. This is Agnes Obel and Mary on WFUV.
the sky. In my house, the silence rings so loud. Undead doorways through the wall we waiting for the secret to grow out. What we do when no one is around. I know this from my high school hall, and I think it's over from a touch. It will begin widen the sky. In the dark, I hear you sing. Fingers move and chords they ring. Be the witness of my shame. Swaying in the summer rain.
That's so beautiful, and I think your friend is going to be so happy to hear that. That is Agnes Obel and Mary, found on her new album, Citizen of Glass. I'm Kara Manning, and Agnes is here today. We were talking a little bit earlier about Hitchcock, and because there is a cinematic scope to all of your music, I was wondering if there was a particular Hitchcock film that if you could score, that you would score if you could go back and do that. If you could say, excuse me, Mr. Bernard Herrmann, could you please let me
Move aside,
Mr. Herrmann.
Mr. Herrmann.
Let me have a shot at this. What would you pick?
Well, I would love to do The Birds because that's my favorite one. And that wasn't Mr. Herrmann.
No,
that was Oscar Sala, yeah. And it was
Oscar.
But it's so perfect with these birds and these bird sounds and sort of this metallic edge he got into the bird sounds. It's really scary. But I think there's something really interesting about how sort of nature comes back to haunt us, and it's such a sort of primal, universal fear that also feels really, in a way, relevant today with everything happening with global warming and so forth. So the birds could sort of be seen in that light as well, like they're coming back to punish us for destroying the planet or something like that. So yeah, I would love I think for the birds.
Given the nature of this beautiful album, and you're going to be touring with a cellist, how many musicians are you bringing with you on tour?
We're going to be 4. So there's actually going to be 2 cellists this time, but one of the cellists will also play guitar and mellotron and omnichord and auto harp as well. And then I'm bringing a clarinetist and bass clarinetist, and she also plays trombone and percussion, and she's a great singer. They're all great singers.
That'll be beautiful.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Have you thought, because of the nature of this album and the metaphor of glass that runs through, of maybe even doing some shows or gigs in different settings?
Mm-hmm.
Because you spoke earlier about nature, and I can see you, being in a fjord doing, or being in a beautiful cathedral, or being somewhere surrounded by glass. Have you thought of bringing the show to some unusual places along the way?
Well, I thought about playing one show in Berlin where I could bring the Trautonium, because the instrument is actually in a rehearsal space very close to this old venue, which is the concert hall for the old GDR radio house.
Uh-huh.
And this radio house is from the same period, so historically it would make sense.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Agnes Obel, what an absolute delight to talk to you at last. I've admired you for so long, and I'm so excited about this new album, Citizen of Glass. It's absolutely gorgeous. I could bore you silly and ask you individually about every single track, but I won't do that. I'll do that when we get off the air.
All right.
So many questions. But thank you, and looking forward to you coming back and spending more time in New York, too.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Agnes Obel, our guest on today's FUV Live. Her latest album, Citizen of Glass, is out now. You can listen and watch today's show along with many other exclusive conversations and performances in the FUV Vault at WFUV.org. This session was engineered by Jim O'Hara and produced by me, Elisa Ali. Thanks so much for listening. This is 90.7 WFUV in New York.